comfortable with you. I feel like
All right. Thanks, everyone, for popping in today. Doing something a little different to start the show. We've been doing a lot of fantasy football talk over the last little while. And as we've done for the last couple of years, want to do mock drafts with from every spot in a 12-team league. And so, because the setup here didn't really allow for it to go live, recorded one yesterday and going to play that for you off the hop. So we're going to do the mock draft here. It was pre-recorded, but I'm going to be hanging out here. We can still chat in the chat, and then we'll get going with the Blue Jays talk, some more fantasy football talk, and everything like that. But before we get into all of it, enjoy this mock draft from the number one position in a 12-team half-point PPR league. All right, welcome everyone. Doing another season of mock drafts here on Couch Potato Diary. So what we do with these is I run through the draft position of basically every spot in a 12 team half point PPR, just to see what we can kind of expect for the draft process for the upcoming season. So going to do a bunch of these, one a day for this week. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. So let's have at it. Again, this is half point PPR. We are going to be team 1. We have claimed that. The rest are going to be computer. There you can see there. So, lost it. There we go. Got it back. And let's begin. Yes, I am sure. Ooh, and look at that. We're number 1. So I have said before, and for people listening to the podcast, you will hear that I am not necessarily all in on Ja'Marr Chase as the number 1 pick in the drafts, but he's the number 1 rated player. This is all about figuring out what strategies work for us, which ones don't. So let's see what happens when we take Ja'Marr Chase with our first pick. So we go Chase. After that, we get a run on running backs. It is Barkley, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs. Then we get a run on receivers with Jefferson, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Puka Nacua. The first round ends with Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane. Then it is Neighbors, Ashton Genty going in the second round. Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., A.J. Brown, Lamar Jackson, then Brock Bowers. So our first tight end comes off of the board. Drake London, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and we're back to Trey McBride. So now it is us. A couple available options here. I guess you guys can't really see them all that well in the video. I'll try to change that for next time. But we get Josh Allen is available, Ladd McConkey, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and T. Higgins. We're taking a couple of players here. I've said before that I think Ladd McConkey is going to be a part of a Chargers offense that kind of puts it together. I'm really worried about not having running backs here. Looking on down the line, there's a couple other running backs that I don't hate, but those ones are probably going to be gone by the time we get there. It's still, boy, it is. You dry up quick when you have this first selection. So let's double up on the running backs and see how it goes. Well, okay, we have a minute here. By the time it's projected, our next pick is going to be gone. Rashee Rice could be off the board. That's one that we want. But Travion Henderson's going to be there. RJ Harvey is going to be there. So a couple running backs that we don't mind, but there's a couple wide receivers that we really do like. So I think we are going to go double running back here. So we're going to go Kyron Williams, and then we'll go Chase Brown. So coming out of this with Ja'Marr Chase, and then you get Kyron Williams and Chase Brown. That's a pretty good. I don't know if either guy is going to be a number 1 or a number 2. Or sorry, if either guy is going to be number 1, but they're both going to be very solid number 2s. So I don't mind how this is kind of shook out. I was really hoping Burrow was going to come around to me. He has not. So just to let you know, for those who are listening, after us, it was Josh Allen, then McConkey, and Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, the running back, going to team 5. Tyreek Hill goes off the board, then James Cook, T. Higgins, Omarion Hampton, someone who we kind of wanted. He was gone, picked by team 9. Jackson Smith-Njigba, George Kittle, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. rounds out round 3. At the turn, it's Alvin Kamara. Then we get our run on quarterbacks, Hurts, Daniels, and Burrow, with Mike Evans kind of in between there. You have Terry McLaurin, Chuba Hubbard, Devontae Adams. Gosh, I wish I would quit doing that for those who are watching. Sorry. Then you get DJ Moore, Kenneth Walker, and James Conner. So we are back to the turn here for us. Now, I am very aware that Rashee Rice is going to take some time off of football in the next little bit. So I'm a little concerned about that. But I think when he is healthy and when he is playing, that this guy can be a genuine, legitimate number 1 receiver. So I'm going to go with Rashee Rice here in the 4th. And then at the turn, we're going to double up, and we're going to stack it with a Patrick Mahomes pick in the 5th round. So we didn't get the Chase Burrow stack that we wanted, but I like how this team is setting up. Going to probably have to go wide receiver again here, just to make sure that we are kind of insulated with Rashee Rice going to be missing some time. But I'm feeling good about where we're at. Now, of course, as I say that, we have another run on wide receiver. So after our pick, it was Metcalf, Sutton, Montgomery, another tight end in Laporta, then Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Travion Henderson and RJ Harvey, who we talked about before. Jamison Williams is off the board. Then Joe Mixon, Xavier Worthy. Then in this round, the sixth, Tony Pollard goes first, followed by Tet McMillan, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, Pickens, Kelsey, Aaron Jones goes to team number 6, Calvin Ridley, Chris Olave. One of these times I'm not going to do that, I promise. Chris Olave, and then you get Johnson, the rookie with Pittsburgh, and Travis Hunter goes to Jacksonville. So we're back on the clock here in the 6th round. TJ Hawkinson is available for the tight ends. We don't have one of those yet. Hawkinson, Andrews, Ingram, and Joku. There's still some time at tight end, so I don't feel a rush to do that. Jalen Waddle might be interesting, kind of insulation with Tyreek Hill having a bit of up and down. Quinshawn Judkins, not overly convinced he's going to be playing football a whole lot this year. Mark Andrews is there. Roma Dunze is really interesting. I think that's going to be a much improved offense this year, given some upgrades they made at wide receiver. I am admittedly nervous about some of the tight ends that are projected to come off the board in this time, so maybe I will go tight end here with our 1 pick. Let's just lock that in right now. So we have tight end to kind of round out our starting roster. And then after that, Jalen Waddle, I think, is the one who is intriguing me the most. Roma Dunze, maybe a bit more of an upside play. Actually, now the more I think about it, I kind of like the offense there a little bit better. And I loved his talent coming out of college. So you know what, Roma Dunze, welcome to the squad. Locking him in as our wide receiver number 3. So on good weeks, he's going to be our flex. And in not so good weeks, he's going to be our wide receiver number 2. Do not hate that as an option. All right, after us, Waddle went immediately. Judkins went as well. Another quarterback in Baker Mayfield. A couple more quarterbacks coming off the board here. Then it was Judy, Brian Robinson, Tracy with the Giants, who I think could be interesting this year. Jalen Warren with Pittsburgh, another intriguing player. Stephon Diggs, Addison, who's going to miss some time. Travis Etienne, then Jacoby Myers, another tight end in round number 8, Mark Andrews. So I feel pretty good about our tight end call because the guys who we were like, okay, they're going to be at us. It's going to be fine. They all come off with Andrews, Ingram, and Njoku. Matt Golden with the Green Bay Packers is off. Bo Nix and Kyler Murray back-to-back. Holy smokes, I keep going backwards on this as I am the worst with the trackpad. So apologies for that. Ricky Pearsall, that one stings a little bit. Pearsall coming off the board. That would have been a pretty solid pick. So we're back to us now. We have a minute left before we make the turn. Khalil Shakir is available. Tyler Warren, young tight end with Indianapolis. I'm not going to bet on another rookie tight end having a good year. Javonte Williams, I think, is interesting. I think a lot of people are kind of writing him off. Agbuka is someone who I like a lot, man. The running back options are just not here at this point. So I think we're learning maybe lean running back a little bit earlier than we did because it is not stellar, shall we say, here with 45 seconds to go. You know what I actually like? We talked about him as a breakout candidate, getting him here in the 8th round, a flex option if we need, otherwise just a guy. I'm going to go Keon Coleman in this spot. So again, flex option for us or a potential depth piece. God, I really don't like where we're at running back right now here. We only have Kyron Williams and Chase Brown so far. We're in the 9th round. I am going to force us to take a kicker and a defense. So we are running a little bit out of time, but there's just not a whole lot there running back wise that you feel great about. Javonte Williams, Jordan Mason, Zach Charbonnet. So we're getting into kind of the backups here. You know what we might do? Just looking at what's available, there's a couple of guys who are part of timeshares that I think are going to get a little bit of burn here. And that's with Tank Bigsby and with Trey Benson. I think the more obvious spot for volume here is Tank Bigsby. I think there's a chance, like he outperformed ETN last year when you just watched the games, and I think he has a chance to do that again this year. So let's go Tank Bigsby with our selection in the 9th round, giving us a little bit more running back depth. After that, it's Jaden Reed, Jared Goff, Khalil Shakir, Tyler Warren, Zach Charbonnet, Agbuka, who again, I like that a lot as an intriguing option with Tampa Bay. He goes off the board to team 7. You got Downs, another really good pick there actually at 8. Herbert off the board, back-to-back Chargers actually with Herbert, and then Najee Harris. Back-to-back 49ers then with Ayuk and Purdy. Javonte Williams goes at the start of the 10th, followed by Jordan Mason. Juwan Jennings, who could be interesting. He goes in the 10th. 3 tight ends with Kraft, Jonnu Smith, and Loveland. You get Stevenson, J.K. Dobbins, not going to do it this time, Michael Pittman, Dalton Kincaid, and Higgins there in the 10th. So we are now back at the back end of the 10th round. We have our 3 running backs. We have multiple wide receivers and tight ends. So we are now looking to build the depth up here. Honestly, it might not be a bad, like Darnell Mooney missing some time with that shoulder injury. I think he's going to be a good part of this offense down the road. And honestly, if we could time up Mooney coming in for Rice, that doesn't hurt. I don't love going back to back or going with 2 tight ends, but Kyle Pitts at this point almost feels too good to pass up. But looking at the running backs that are available, I'm not doing a good job of showing you guys here. It's not. I need to try to set this up a little bit better. But Trey Benson is here still, and I think he's going to get actually a pretty good look in that backfield with Arizona. So let's go. Where are we at right now? He's going 150. All right, we got 35 seconds to make a call here. Boy, a lot of quarterbacks still available at this particular time. We're getting into the kickers now as well. Let's go Benson. Whoops, wrong button. So anyway, that's what Benson looks like. For those watching, sorry. There we go, Benson. He is our guy, locked in. And now I will go with Darnell Mooney. Another pass catching option for an offense that could be better this year with Atlanta. So he gets locked in as our next wide receiver, helping us kind of build out some depth. So Pitts goes right at, or a couple picks after. You get the run on QBs with Prescott, Fields, and May. So just looking down here now, we have 4 picks remaining. So we're going to have kind of 2 turns left. And the run on kickers has begun. Man, love at that point. That's a really, really good pick. Maybe I should have gone with that because I said before I think that team is going to really step up this year. So it has come back around to us, 12th round. We were hoping, and still there are a couple of options here. So again, guys who are at the back part of a running back kind of duo that I think could be interesting. Ray Davis with Buffalo, if anything happens to Cook, Ray Davis could be a very interesting piece. Also, there is Jerome Ford, who's just kind of the running back 1 in Cleveland, and no one's taking him, and Braylon Allen, the running back there for the Jets. Now, we were on the back part of the kicker and defense run. So kicker's available right now. There isn't anyone that's like, oh my gosh, we have to have him to kind of like reach ahead for it. And on the defensive side, there's a couple of defenses that are actually pretty good here. So I think we'll go Broncos because we have some flexibility with a couple of players that we are still interested in. And then let's see, guys who could be gone. I'm getting a guy who's a number 1 running back on his team here in the 13th round. I just kind of have to with Jerome Ford. So we're going to go Jerome Ford right there. Get that. Nick Chubb comes off the board immediately after that. And then another run on running back. So Ray Davis is gone. So maybe we could have had the second one kind of go there as we get Leggy now all of a sudden at the end here of this draft. So hopefully everything kind of syncs up and we'll be able to make this work. But we swing back around now to us. We have a couple of picks remaining. We have to go with the defense. It looks like we missed out on the other one that we wanted. Yeah, Braylon Allen was the other one that I was looking for. Goes to the back part, the first part, I guess, of the 14th round. So that's a little unfortunate that we kind of took a gamble there and only got one of the 4 that we were looking at. So kind of a good reminder to not mess around with that when there are still some pieces on the board. Just make sure you get those guys and move from there. Let's get away from some of the kicker things that have popped up. Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, some players available, as is Hunter Henry, Dylan Sampson, Jalen Wright. That might not be a bad one. That can still be a pretty good offense out there. So let's go Jalen Wright with our pick there. And then the random kicker, whoever is at the top, let's go Will Lutz. He'll be kicking in thin air out in Denver. So The final picks are going to swing around, and we will figure out what we have with this particular team. So, our starting lineup as this comes to a close, we will have Patrick Mahomes as our starting quarterback. Our starting running backs are going to be Kyron Williams and Chase Brown. Our wide receiver starters are going to be Chase, that's right, and Rashee Rice. Roma Dunze will be in our flex spot with TJ Hawkinson as our tight end. And then our depth at wide receiver is Coleman and Mooney. At running back, we have Bigsby, Benson, Ford, and Wright. Our defense is the Broncos, and we also have their kicker in Will Lutz. So that is what it looks like for mock draft number 1. Honestly, don't hate it. Was a little worried there about our running backs, but there are some I'm much more interested in the running backs late this year than I am the wide receivers late. So we've at least learned that. So thank you guys for watching this mock draft. We'll have a lot more mock drafts still to come throughout the campaign. The Blue Jays get an injury scare at the worst time. Plus, it is time to see who's overrated in the National Football League and some big news on Monday Night Raw. It's another big episode of Couch Potato Diary Live, and it starts right now. Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for hanging out today. Hello to those in the live stream. We've already had Anand checking in today. Congratulations to him. A new play-by-play gig. Check out his social medias. Doing a lot of good hockey content out there as well. So shout out to Anand in the chat. Thank you to him for popping by over on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. We are presented by Sea of Dead. Head over to seaofdead403.ca for all this great Calgary swag. Look at that there. Plus, head over to swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime for 25% off. Wherever you are watching this, if you are tuning in on the live stream today, we're on a few different platforms. Just let me know how the stream is looking. It's a little bit wobbly on my end, but we've had that in the past, and then everything has been fine on yours. So hopefully that is the case with this one here. Like I said, on the show today, we're going to look at the Blue Jays' loss against the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday and what Vlad being out could potentially mean for this ball club going forward. We're back into our NFL draft previews as we are, or not just NFL draft preview, but NFL season preview, looking at the overrated teams and players in the NFL going into this upcoming season. Then we got some CFL Power Rankings stuff, and then off to the fighting world, where we look at the schedule ahead for the Ultimate Fighting Championship and recap of Raw last night, and then get ready for the wrestling here for the rest of the next couple of days. Love chatting with you guys. It's the reason we're doing these live every day. Had a lot of fun ones in the chat yesterday, and different videos coming off of that. So if we're not talking about, if you want to chat something that we're not talking about, throw it in there. I think I've got it set up now that I can see everything, and if it's not about what we're talking about, I'll finish the segment, and then we'll get into whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be whatever we're talking about. If you've got anything on your mind, throw it in that chat, and let me know, and we will get to it. Unless it's like offensive or something, that I probably won't. But, you know. Probably shouldn't have to say that. Anyway, let's get into the show, shall we? The Toronto Blue Jays have had a lot of things go well this season, but the one thing that they probably couldn't afford to go poorly did last night in Pittsburgh. We don't know the extent of Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s injury, but that doesn't mean we can't panic about it. So, let's panic. I don't know how you could panic with the music that we have for Blue Jays segments, but we're pretty darn close. As the Blue Jays fall to the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday, that's going to happen. You're facing one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's going to do that to teams. The panic part comes with what happened during the game, as has made the rounds. Once again, Bo Bichette makes a really nice play behind second base, throws it across, and to make sure they get the out, Vlad Guerrero Jr. goes down and does the splits and makes the play and stays in the game defensively, dives for a ball, didn't quite get to it, and then he comes up to bat, and all of a sudden it's Ty France who is coming up to bat. And that is a little different. So they are saying that he's going off for an MRI. It is left hamstring tightness. Hopefully, it's a pulled muscle, and it's just a couple days. It's just like ooh, ow, ooh. Didn't love that. Because we can talk about all we want with this guy stepping up, that guy stepping up. This guy needs to be whatever. That guy needs to be whatever. If Vlad Guerrero Jr. is not in the middle of the lineup, this team is entirely different and not in a good way. It is a major problem if that dude can't go out and play for this ball club. So obviously, that is the big concern, and we'll wait to see. Hopefully, if you are watching this not live, hopefully by the time that this comes out, that Vlad is fine. But for now, we don't know that. So it is just mass panic on my end. Because, Springer, excellent. Addison Barger, we'll talk about him in a second. He's been very good. Bo Bichette has worked his way back into being a really good player. Alejandro Kirk having an amazing season. But to not have that big bat in the middle of the lineup, there's just, all those guys are, this sounds more dismissive than I want it to be. All those guys are great complementary pieces. They aren't the big star that kind of puts it all together. And the Blue Jays don't really have that in their system, where there's this first baseman in waiting that they can just go out and just oh yeah, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. We have this guy on the come up, and he was just waiting for a spot to break through. So there isn't that it's almost ironic they were playing Spencer Horwitz yesterday. Not that it would be hey guys, don't worry, we got Spencer Horwitz coming in. But that it would at least be something. So again, I am concerned about where they are at right now. Looking at the stats for AAA Buffalo right now, maybe, but Aurelvis Martinez, he still isn't even hitting his weight right now at 185 with 13 home runs, 32 runs batted in, but he's second on the team in home runs. Will Robertson actually leads the team in home runs, and he's not there anymore, so that would be a bit of an issue to call him up. The first baseman who they have had down there, Rainer Nunez, is hitting .260 with 7 home runs and a .714 OPS, but you haven't heard a whole lot of buzz around him. In AA last year, he hit .275 with 12 home runs, so we're not talking about a big power bat. So there isn't really that guy who is coming up in the system that it's okay, this dude is going to be the one who can help with all of this. And this is one of the reasons why I was a little bit frustrated with the approach to the offense at the trade deadline, where you were saying, you know what, when Varsho comes back, it's like a trade deadline acquisition. And then if you get Santander, well, look at that. Everything, it's just, it's excess. It's not, though. And this is why I was no, just you make sure you go out and just overload. I feel like at this time of year, in any sport, when you're coming up on the postseason, if you have a chance to just get as much major league ready depth as you can, I think you have to do it. And to only address the offense with, Ty France, he's good defensively, can go out and hit a couple balls, he's all right. To have that be the only thing was really concerning. And now there wasn't that big bat that did get moved. It's, again, one of the reasons why I was hoping for an Eugenio Suarez is because, like, these things can happen. And I don't know if there was a trade out there that could just replace Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I feel like it was, I forget what movie I saw it in the trailer for, but it was that thing where overkill is underrated. When you have a chance to win a championship and you are going for a push to the postseason, I don't think that there are too many moves that you can make. And now this team was unique because the chemistry in the room and everything like that, it was just a little bit different. But I still think that there should have been more of a push to bring in a couple of big bats that you could have off of the bench so that hopefully if something bad happened, now you at least have some bigger bats that you can put in. Now it is basically going to be Ty France, I would assume, as the everyday first baseman for as long as Vlad is out of the lineup. And he might be back tonight. Like, again, I could just be overreacting. But that's just, that is such a downgrade. And I am concerned about what this all could mean for the Blue Jays. Overall, it was a sloppy game yesterday. And I wonder if the players' heads weren't necessarily in it after the whole Vlad situation went down. I wonder if there was a bit of a, okay, we got Paul Skeens out. We got this game now. And they lost that focus. They lost that competitiveness that this team has been known for. But that was not a Toronto Blue Jays baseball game. That was very, very sloppy. And they talked on the broadcast about how maybe the defense has started to regress a little bit for Toronto. But that was horrendous with the throws into center field on a couple of occasions and everything like that. That was truly bad. So this hopefully is a one-off, hopefully a bit of a wake-up call that, yeah, things have been going great, but there's some adversity now, and you have to be able to push through it. So we will see if this is a learning effort for the Blue Jays coming off of this one. But on the upside, I thought Addison Barger had a great game. And talking about guys who are struggling defensively, he might not take the best routes to the balls out in right field, but a couple of great throws against the Rangers. He has been kind of stepping it up. And then that battle he had with Skeens, where he just wouldn't let a fastball get past him and ends up stinging 99 off the wall for one of the bigger hits the Blue Jays had in the ballgame. I just love how this kid went through, like, he came in and was one of the top hitters when it came to exit velocity and was stepping up in that way. And then he had that lull. And okay, teams have kind of figured this guy out. But now he has started to bounce back and he has made the adjustment. And a lot of times with young players, that adjustment needs an off season. He didn't. And for him to be able to do that and now get that stride back, it makes you very confident that this is going to be something that you can rely on. And it's something that can be a little bit sticky for the season going forward. So I thought that was a positive. And now you got one of the guys that you feel really comfortable with on the mound today against the Pirates, and that is Max Scherzer, the ultimate competitor, all of those things. I think that he is good to have back in this spot where maybe you weren't very sharp. Maybe you did get some bad news on the injury front yesterday, but he is not going to allow anyone on his team to be anything less than 100% focused on this baseball game. So I think having him out there is going to be really good and kind of just what the doctor ordered for the Blue Jays against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we will see what happens with Toronto against Pittsburgh. Again, if you have any thoughts on any of that, if I'm overreacting, if I'm underreacting, if I'm being too critical, let me know either in the chat if you're watching live or in the comment section down below. We are streaming this on a few different platforms. The next time we are going to be streaming live after this, we're going to be back wherever you are watching this live at 10 a.m. tomorrow. That is Wednesday. It's going to be another 10 a.m. stream here on Couch Potato Diary, so make sure you check all of that out. Also, if you want more Blue Jays content, and sometimes I'm putting out a lot, so if you don't want to filter through everything that is out there, I have the playlists up on YouTube and Dailymotion. If you just want Blue Jays, there's the Cat Lenato Cast playlist that is on there. You can find that and help filter through all of the Blue Jays content that you need. But now it is time to get ready for the 2025 NFL season. Every year in the National Football League, there are teams that the hype train just runs away on. And sometimes there are some teams that maybe we don't have as good of a read on as we think. So today, it's sure to be just everyone agrees with this. Here are the 5 most overrated teams in the NFL going into the 2025 season. I'm sure no one's going to get upset about this. It's the top 5 most overrated teams in the NFL for the 2025 season. This is based off of Vegas win totals, and that's basically what my kind of barometer was. And a lot of these teams kind of in the middle. There wasn't that egregious, like, I can't believe this team is in this spot. This one, it felt like it, even though the total is a little bit more modest. It's the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what the case is for thinking this could be a team that is going to be around 500 this year. They play call on offense like they're scared of their quarterback. The high-powered offense that they had from a couple of seasons ago, that was entirely gone last year. And you have controversies around Tyreek Hill. Does he want to be here? Does he not want to be here? You have, again, a quarterback that is a little bit banged up, an offensive mind as a head coach that people maybe figured out. And a team that for the last couple of years has kind of been bleeding talent away and has not done a good job of replacing it. Now you combine that with the fact that this division has got quite a bit more difficult. The New England Patriots are actually a football team this year, and I would say ditto for the New York Jets. I think that they have a team that you really should be worried about. I don't think it is out of the realm of possibilities that this is a football team that is last place in their division by the end of the season. So I think the Dolphins are quite a bit overvalued for the upcoming year. Up next, it is the Detroit Lions at 10.5 wins. The rest of this division is so good. Like, the Bears got, I think, quite a bit better when you factor in a new head coach, when you factor in a offensive line aggressive adjustment, and a defense that I think people are still kind of underrating just based on how ineffective the offense was from a season ago. So the Bears, better. The Vikings, you could argue that they didn't get better, I suppose, but we don't know what's happening with J.J. McCarthy, but they have used a lot of the money that got freed up and spread it around. This is a incredibly deep and talented football team. And then Green Bay, you are presuming that Jordan Love doesn't get hurt for half of the season, and they have continued to make smart moves on defense. So this whole this is not the Houston Texans that just get to run all over their division in the AFC South. This is a Lions team that is going to have 6 very difficult matchups as the season goes along. You combine that with the brain power that has left the organization with Coach Johnson and Aaron Glenn on their way out the door, and Ragnow's retirement in the middle of that offense. I can't stress enough how big of a deal I think that is. All of it just screams to me that this is going to be a step back season for the Lions. I think that the Jared Goff that we were used to before the last couple of seasons might show up again, as maybe a bit more responsibility is placed on his plate. So I have concerns about where Detroit is, and I think 10.5 has them as an overrated team this year. The perpetually overrated Dallas Cowboys are next. Their win total is at 7.5. A lot of people pointing to, well, it was injury problems last year that really kind of got in their way. But if you recall, even before Dak got hurt, he was playing in a game and you could see him mouth, "We're fucking brutal," because they were fucking brutal. This wasn't a good football team, and I don't think they did anything this offseason to improve on that. Getting Pickens as a number 2 receiver, I think, helps, but this is not necessarily someone who is just an absolute stone cold lock to fit into any locker room. I think that the running backs there, while running back is maybe not the most important position in 2025, I think we got a glimpse last year that it can still be pretty important, and they have 3 guys who are pretty mid. And then defensively, they have one of the best defensive players in the league on their team, Micah Parsons, but he's not exactly stoked with how things have gone this offseason, and then the rest of the defense is just You combine that with Schottenheimer getting the call as the head coach. It felt very uninspired, and it just feels like a team that took all the wrong lessons from last season. And then again, you look at this division. The Eagles, they didn't get worse. The Washington Commanders, maybe you have a better sense of what Jaden Daniels is now, but they've added some things for him and on that defense. That team is going to be good again this year. And I think the Giants are improved with Russell Wilson at quarterback over what they had from last year. I think they have the worst coach in the division. They have the second worst quarterback probably right now in the division. Defensively, they're not one of the top teams. Like, I I don't see where the Cowboys are getting a ton of wins this year. So I have them as an overrated team at 7.5. Up next is the Seattle Seahawks at 8.5 wins. They downgraded a quarterback, they downgraded a wide receiver, and they did not improve the offensive line nearly enough. You have a quarterback who has struggled behind offensive lines like this before, who just left an offensive situation that was tailor-made for him. And now you have brought him in behind an offensive line that looks like one that made him see ghosts a long time ago. You have taken away a lot of very high-powered options that he had in the passing game and just not given this team a whole lot to work with. Also, again, to point at this, I look at the San Francisco 49ers. This year can't go worse for them than it did a season ago. So that's going to be difficult. I have worries about the LA Rams, that's for sure, but that's still a pretty good football team. And then I think Arizona made a couple of smart moves this offseason. I think they're going to be better in this upcoming season. So it is, again, not going to be a team that is just going to be able to sleepwalk through their division, and all of a sudden you look up and they're at 10 wins. I don't think this is a great roster. I don't think it's a good team. And so I don't think they're going to get to 9 wins. So I think they're overrated at 8.5. And the last one is the Cincinnati Bengals at 9.5 wins. I don't think they did enough to make this team better. I think that they locked in some big pieces to, obviously, like you lock in your franchise players. You can make a very compelling argument that maybe they shouldn't have with T. Higgins. It sounds like Hendrickson's on the trading block now, so that's a bit of a concern for them. And the defense was a big problem last year. There's no question about it. That defense was actively costing them football games a season ago. You bring in Shamar Stewart, that's great. I don't think one player is going to fix anything there. And then again, for the 6th year in a row, they didn't do enough to address the offensive line because they were so focused on the defensive side of the ball. So while they learned some important lessons from last year, I don't think they learned enough from what was happening. And I think that you got a superhuman season from multiple different aspects of your team. And so I don't think you can assume that you are going to get that again this year if you are the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think they're overrated at 9.5 wins. So again, my overrated teams for the 2025 season: the Miami Dolphins, the Detroit Lions, Dallas Cowboys, Seattle Seahawks, and the Cincinnati Bengals. So those are the overrated teams in the NFL. We will get to overrated players in just a second. As you all know, we're trying to grow this thing here at Couch Potato Diary, and you just hanging out watching this means the world. Thank you so much. Other ways you can help: just share this video. Every place has an option to do that. Click that share button, send it to a couple people you like, a couple people you don't like too, just to throw them off a little bit. Yeah, if you could share this video with your friends, that would help out so much as we try to spread the word of Couch Potato Diary. I'm really happy with the shows we've been putting out over the last few months. Would just be happier if more people could see the shows that we've been putting out over the last little bit. So we've talked overrated teams. What about overrated players? The fantasy football community has had a long time to analyze and maybe overanalyze some of these guys, and I still think there are some that we got wrong. Whether it is name brand, whether it is situation, or whatever it is, there are some players that are just flat overrated. Here are the top 5 most overrated players in fantasy football for the upcoming National Football League season. All right, who's going too high in fantasy football drafts? Here are the top 5 fantasy football most overrated players this season. Our first most overrated player, I guess, you know what? Let's start at the bottom and work our way up on this one. Coming in at number 5 for being overrated is Alvin Kamara. 38th overall in draft according to ADP. That number coming from Fantasy Pros, by the way. Going as RB 16 right now. He's I think he is still a talented running back, but the rest of this offense looks dreadful. And I know that sometimes, a friend of the show, Chris Harris, talks about how we're really bad at assessing what these situations are, and we can be. I feel pretty confident that this one's going to suck this year out in New Orleans. The quarterback battle has been uninspiring at best. Kellen Moore, I think there was a time where this was a guy who was the next one as a head coaching candidate, but I think there's a reason that it took a few places to give him a job before he finally got this head coaching one. And I think you have a new era with a new front office and a new head coach who weren't responsible for bringing Kamara in. So it's a bad offense that is not necessarily motivated to give him the football a ton. I just think there's going to be quite a bit of a step back. Now, RB16, that ain't killing you. 38th overall, so we're talking about late third, early fourth round pick. But we did the mock draft the other day. You're already starting to pass up on some pretty interesting options there. So I just think that he is, this one isn't as egregious as some of the other ones. I think he is, though, a touch overrated. So he is the 5th most overrated player on the list. Coming in at number 4, it's Tyreek Hill, 28th overall, going as the wide receiver 12. Talked about it in the overrated teams section. I think that he is going to be a part of an offense that I'm just very concerned with. I think that they were big play and explosive a couple of years ago, but they have designed the offense now to let Tua get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. He was the quickest in the NFL to do it last year, and they were talking about how he needs to do it quicker this year. I think you have a player also who just, quite frankly, didn't want to be there after the season ended. And while I am sure that all of that is water under the bridge now and everything like that, this is still not a situation that I think is perfect for him. He had a abysmal offseason when it came to being a human being, and I think there's a chance he's taken a step back as well. So all of that is to say, that is not a dude I'm looking to be drafting. At 28th overall, again, we're talking about back part of the second round, early third round. No, not doing that. Not a chance. I'm looking at Tyreek Hill this season. The next 3, all in the first round. So, just taking a couple of big shots here. But before we get to those, a reminder that things are always changing with Couch Potato Diary. So make sure you give me a follow on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, and on Threads. Our third most overrated player in fantasy football this season is Ashton Jeanty. He is going 10th overall right now as running back number 4. I think he is incredibly talented. I just want to say this. This is not a comment on the kid's talent at all. And by the way, I have the first overall pick in a very deep keeper league that I'm playing in. I am so excited to have this guy on my keeper team for the next 15 years. I'm so excited to have this guy. I think he is remarkably talented, and I think he's going to be great, and I can see why people are excited about him. That being said, while the offense is improved with the Vegas Raiders, I don't think it is going to be improved enough to be able to sustain a top 5 tight end in Brock Bowers and a top 5 running back in Ashton Jeanty. So I think that with the offensive line, maybe the running attempts aren't going to be there as often. He is still going to be valuable in the passing attack, but I think we need to chill a little bit on how excited we're getting about Ashton Jeanty, and having him as a first round pick, I think is probably just a little bit too high for my blood. So he comes in as the number 3 most overrated player in fantasy football this season. At number 2, it is Puka Nacua, 8th overall as wide receiver number 5. Again, this is not a comment on the kid's talent. I think he's really good as a wide receiver. I am worried that Matthew Stafford has had back problems until a day ago in training camp. I think that is going to be something that is just kind of prevalent all season long. And if it's not him, then it is Jimmy Garoppolo. And while I think that would be good target share wise for Nacua, I just think the overall offense is going to suffer around that. And then I think Devontae Adams is going to be taking some looks away. And I think Adams is in that sweet spot of he is still a big name and he is still good, so he is going to take the targets away. But I don't think he is going to be the focus of the game plan. So I think Nacua is still going to have all of the focus and all the attention that a number 1 receiver would get from defenses, while also losing some of the volume because you have a legitimate number 2 over there. So I'm kind of projecting that it's kind of the worst of both worlds for Nacua. And my number 1 most overrated player in fantasy football for the upcoming season is Jahmyr Gibbs, 4th overall, running back 3. He was able to just go off last year because of injuries and everything like that. They have, as far as I know, David Montgomery back in that backfield this season. And I look at an offensive line that I think got quite a bit worse as this offseason went on with Ragnow going out. You have an offensive coordinator who is not as good as the one that you had from last year. I just don't think this is going to be as dominant of a season for Jahmyr Gibbs as people think it should be. or as people were accustomed to from a season ago. I think he's really good. I think he's incredibly talented. I just don't think this is going to be the fourth best player in fantasy football for the upcoming season. So those are the most overrated players, in my opinion, in fantasy football for the upcoming season. We have Sutern in the chat over on Kick saying, "Dear God, you're all over the place sports fan wise. Kobe, whatever local Cleveland team your hat is, and then slow down." I do talk a bit too quickly, so sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, look, the Kobe picture. Also, this is not Cleveland, although I can see where you would get that. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and this is an old minor league team that used to be here, the Calgary Cannons, used to be the minor league affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. But point taken, that there is quite a bit of representation here. We got Kobe back there. That was just, it's an amazing painting by a local artist out here in Calgary. So I think that, I thought it was cool. Kobe Bryant, legend. Right beside that, Kawhi Leonard. I'm a Raptor fan. Champion. Brought the team a title. Have to put that up there. Below that, baseball hat. Toronto Blue Jays fan. And then this one, it's a local thing. So I can be a little all over the place, but I mean, Kobe, you got to respect, one of the best of all time. Kawhi brought a championship to my favorite team, and Blue Jays, also my favorite team. And it's a cool team that played here in the city that I lived in a long time ago. Canadians are so say sorry. I think it's supposed to say sorry and be slow and friends. So I will try to slow it down. I'll try to kind of ease up a little bit, as I do think maybe I'm racing through this a little bit too much. So point taken on that one. I believe Sutern is what we're going to go with pronunciation-wise. Hopefully I am getting that one right. But anyway, the fantasy football conversation and the football conversation not going to end there, as we had some news today from the NFL that I think was a little bit of a not super surprise, but one that I think kind of spells a lot of different things. So let's talk about the news that Daniel Jones is now the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. It was a legitimate quarterback battle, apparently, out in Indianapolis, and it did not go Anthony Richardson's way, as Daniel Jones is now the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You have I think there's a few layers to this one, and I find it very, very fascinating with this. And yeah, to Sutern's point in the chat, the Colts are trying to earn their new Manning. Yes, a lot of people may be pointing to Arch Manning being the savior of the franchise if he comes out in the NFL draft this season. And look, Daniel Jones has already quarterbacked one team to a very high draft pick. He certainly is capable of doing that again here. But I think for the Colts, the major concern with this is not, okay, we're going with Daniel Jones, we're probably going to be tanking, and it's going to be fine. I think that the main concern with this is that the kid that you drafted really high just hasn't been able to cut it this season, or at all with the Colts. And I think that is the big one. And I think that there are lessons to be learned here and deeper dives to be done about how, just draft a quarterback. Keep drafting quarterbacks. You need a quarterback, draft a quarterback high. Is he the fifth best player on the board? Probably not, but we got to draft him high anyway. That's, I think, a flawed strategy that leads to things like this. Because it is not just, okay, and if this doesn't work, you grab the next one. This is now, 3 or 4 wasted years for the Indianapolis Colts, and they are not in a better spot for it. And now you are having to do this all again, because it's not just, okay, well, draft the kid, and if it doesn't work, we'll get him next year. That worked out for the Titans because they drafted Will Levis in the second round, and then he was bad, and you were able to pivot right away. When this happens, odds are, if it's not great, it'll still be good enough that it can kind of keep you in the middle, and then you're not in a spot to be drafting a quarterback. And with them, you think of the wasted years now with Jonathan Taylor, I think legitimately one of the most talented running backs in the National Football League. Michael Pittman, they have Josh Downs this year as well, who are two, I think, very talented wide receivers that you have just wasted everybody's time with. And they were actually able to go out and bring in a highly sought-after offensive mind in Shane Steichen as the offensive coordinator, and wasted some years with that as well. Like it is all just a gigantic waste of time out in Indianapolis. And now for Anthony Richardson, like I don't know where you go from here. I don't know where I can't imagine there's going to be a team next year that is like, hey, you know what we need? We need to give Anthony Richardson a shot. That's going to fix our problems. And he has a style that if you bring him in as a backup quarterback, I just worry that like he's, unless it's a couple of teams, the style that you have to implement for him, he is another type of quarterback where if you have him as your quarterback, you have to kind of tailor everything to him, which is why I do think it has been a little bit weird that you had like Joe Flacco and him coming in. Like those are two different halves of the offensive playbook. So I don't think that works very effectively for running an offense. So I think this is a very, very bad sign that Anthony Richardson wasn't able to win this job back. For Daniel Jones, it's not a bad spot. The division isn't good. The weapons around you are pretty good. That doesn't include the offensive line, but there are quite a few options now for him and an opportunity to show what he can do. And I am of the belief he's not great. That is the official opinion of this podcast, is that Daniel Jones isn't an awesome National Football League quarterback. But I do think that this is a chance with the running backs that they have, with the receivers that they have, and the schedule that they have, that this could at least earn him a few extra $1 million, and someone could give him an opportunity as a starting quarterback. But if I'm the rest of the division, I'm a little bit more worried now, which is wild to say, because I think Anthony Richardson just wasn't going to be that guy. And if I'm the Titans, Texans, or Jags, I'm pretty happy that, or I would have been pretty happy if they would have tried it again with him. Now with Daniel Jones, I think there is I think that there is an opportunity that they're going to actually go out and win some football games here with them. So it is the right move to make, but it is the right move after the wrong moves that were made for Indianapolis. Sutaren in the chat has asked a few things, so let me just run through some of these right now. Saying, English not my main tongue, so hard to keep up with you. Apologies for that. Arch has played literally 2 games. For him to be predicted number 1 is insane. There is a lot of that, and I do think a lot of those have kind of slowed down. It was just, he is this prodigy for a long time, and so there is some stuff from high school and everything working up to this point where, and obviously the name is just going to hype that a whole lot. Although we did have a very recent example of how hype based off of your last name doesn't always lead to high draft pick success. But I think that there's a lot of people quite excited about what Arch Manning could potentially do. Also saying that Anthony Richardson is done. He is the Jamarcus Russell. Granted, not a number 1 overall pick, but Anthony Richardson and Jamarcus Russell are literally the same thing. Yes, as a Raider fan here, talking about bouncing all over the place sports fan-wise, as a Raider fan, certainly can see the comparisons. At least Anthony Richardson won a few games in the NFL. Jamarcus looked really bad. But no, I mean, look, there's some comparisons there as well. And I think you've now seen it with Richardson and with Trey Lance. The quarterbacks who came out early and had like one good year, we're seeing more and more. You need more experience at the college level for you to be able to get thrown into this right away. So I think there's a lot of lessons that I think can be learned from the Anthony Richardson situation. When you look at team building, they brought him in and it was just like, hey, fix everything right away. They didn't have the offensive line for him. They had a couple of weapons at the time, but not enough to really threaten. Hopefully you guys didn't hear all that phone ringing going on there, but they had enough. They had a couple weapons, but not enough to really be, like, insulate him. It really was like, hey kid, fix everything. And he just wasn't ready. This was an example where they put him in too soon. They did not have the proper foundation in place to get him there, and they were relying on him to be able to get a team that was drafting high for a reason back to a high level as a football team. Like, it was this perfect storm of not putting things together. Jonathan Taylor is good, but he's no Barry Sanders, who carried a bad QB to the playoffs for 4 years. That's true. Like, Jonathan Taylor isn't best player on a playoff team. He's not Saquon Barkley or anything like that, but that's a good running back that is another offensive weapon that you can roll with. Daniel Jones is going to be a career backup after he leaves the Colts. I think that's probably fair. I think he's probably going to be kind of late stages Andy Dalton, where you draft a quarterback and you bring in Daniel Jones for a year to give the quarterback time to figure it out. Maybe you don't have the best offensive line, and Daniel Jones becomes cannon fodder. And once you get the rest of the team figured out, now the kid comes in. He's going to be that guy. He's going to be the backup that you bring in as some insurance around a young piece. Okay, we've named one, the Colts. What are some other teams that are going to be tanking? That's a good question. Just kind of bouncing around. Tomorrow we're going to look at teams going from worst to first in the NFL. In terms of teams that are going to be just like straight tanking this year, I wonder if we get to a point, just did overrated teams. I wonder if we get to a point where the Miami Dolphins turn into one that is just like, okay, it's not working. We fired the coach. Let's see how many losses we can accumulate and try to get this thing back on track a little bit here. I think the Cleveland Browns, maybe not by trying, but they're just a bad team, so I think they are going to be down in those dumps as well. And then, New Orleans. I think and honestly, that makes it a little bit interesting that in a year where potentially, Arch Manning could be coming out. Is that a lot? Like he could come out next year, right? I'm not. Yes, he still has the opportunity to not go to the draft this year. But if we are talking about him being as the number one guy, it would be interesting that the two teams that had the opportunity for Arch Manning would be the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. You have the obvious family ties to the organization, and then the obvious geographical ties of they live there. So I think that would be a fascinating push to a potential number one, and potentially Arch Manning being a franchise changer once again in a city where that name is very well thought of, regardless of how you view his stature as a prospect. So that is the NFL story for today. We are going to move to football, but of a different kind, the 3-down variety, as we take a look now at the Canadian Football League. We had two of the top teams in the league go head-to-head this week, and one dominated. So it's no question who's number one. It's just a question of what to do after that, because there is a lot of movement on this week's CFL Power Rankings. All right, the Canadian Football League is now past the halfway point of the season, and while the Saskatchewan Roughriders made a statement this week, a lot of other teams bringing up a lot of questions anyway. So let's get into CFL Power Rankings. Before we fully dive in, Sue Taryn again in the Kick Chat saying, so World Cup coming to America, and then dang it, never mind. Anything you want to talk about, throw it in the chat. I am going to keep rolling with the Power Rankings here, but I may not be your number one source of football and soccer knowledge, but I can give it a go. Whatever you want to chat about, throw that into the chat. And that goes for everyone. Whatever you want to talk about, I will get to it as quickly as possible. All right, CFL Power Rankings. Honestly, start and finish, pretty easy. Number 9, Toronto Argonauts. The Argonauts are in the bottom place on the CFL Power Rankings because they are bad at football. Now, they almost squeak out a win last week, but I continue to say, yes, Nick Arbuckle is a backup quarterback. Yes, Chad Kelly is a significant improvement whenever he comes back for the Argos. However, the problem with this team isn't quarterback. They can't defend worth a lick, and there just isn't enough around Arbuckle or Kelly or whoever that when Kelly comes back, this team is going to make a substantial leap this season. This is just, it is a roster that won a Grey Cup a year ago and pushed forward this offseason, just being like, yeah, you know what, we're going to lose some pieces, but we got good depth and good coaching. I still think Dinwiddie's an excellent coach, but they lost too many pieces and didn't replace any of them, so I would anticipate a pretty aggressive offseason coming up for Toronto as playoff hopes slip further and further away. Coming in at number 8, it is the Edmonton Elks. They've had a couple of good wins as the seasons have kind of, or as the season has kind of gone on. I do think they're going to be better as this rolls on. It's just that's where they are right now. At number 7, Montreal, a team that, as I've said, when healthy, this is one of the most talented rosters in the in the Canadian Football League. I just like the quarterback thing. It is getting out of control now with all of the injury issues and all those things that are happening. So I just feel like it is tough to put this team in the top half of the league when you have so much inconsistency at the quarterback position. Coming in at number 6, I have the Ottawa Red Blacks. They come up with a performance that they almost get a surprise win off of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but they beat Calgary. They hang tight at least with Winnipeg. They've beat Toronto. They have a few things that you can at least hang your hat on now for Ottawa to at least say, you know what, something is happening here. So that's what kind of separates them now and plucks them away from some of the worst spots in the league. Coming in at number 5, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They almost blew that game against Ottawa, and it just hasn't looked as good this season. Injuries have led to some inconsistent play, but overall, this has been a team that has struggled quite a bit in a number of different spots that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to. They had a couple of good games against BC, and then after that, I struggle to think of a game where they have looked really good this season. So they are a team that I am concerned about going forward. At 4, it's the BC Lions. They have come up with a couple of very impressive performances over the last few weeks. Nathan Rourke is showing that he is genuinely one of the most talented players in the CFL. You wish they had more offensive line help. You wish they had more help on defense, but he has started to really take over and really lead this team to some big wins. They are not a team that you can just forget about right now. That they are, I think, very deserving of this spot in the top half of the Canadian Football League. We will get to our top 3 in just a second, but a reminder that if you missed any of the stream or just want to bring Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. That would be Spotify or Apple Music or any other podcast platform. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, Couch Potato Diary is there. At number 3, it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats, the number 1 team in the East. They will hold that for a bit because we just ran through the bottom half of the league and everyone else in the East was down there. But that was an ass kicking against Saskatchewan on Saturday afternoon. Their offensive line got beat up pretty bad. Defensively, they were aggressive early and then really got picked apart. I don't think this is a red flags. Maybe this team isn't that good. This is still a high-level offensive team and an improved defensive one. But when you are looking at the Calgarys and Saskatchewans of the world, they're a tier below. And we just did our tier rankings the other day, but maybe I had them too high, being in that number 1 tier. At number 2, it is the Calgary Stampeders. That they've had a couple of setbacks, but still, this defense is insanely good, and we are getting to the point in the season where they're supposed to be meshing now, and they've been this good already. You have an offense that is getting a little bit healthier, and Vernon Adams continues to just ball out at quarterback. So at number 2, it's Calgary, and at number 1, it's the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Talked about it yesterday in the recap of the Hamilton game. They are a team that I think when they are playing at their best, it's better than anyone else's best right now in the CFL. The offense has so many ways they can beat you. The defense, they can get pressure just rushing 4 or in some cases 5, and they have an aggressive, talented, smart secondary, really good linebacking core. Like it's solid everywhere you go. And they have come up with a couple gigantic wins over Hamilton and Montreal, and now it sets up a very fun matchup here at McMahon in Calgary with the Riders and the Stampeders for number 1 spot in the power rankings and close in the West. That one's coming up on Saturday, so very excited. I'm going to be at that game. Really excited to check that one out. Toxic in the chat. It must hurt you saying that the Stamps are good again. Look, I will, yes, admit, like, it was nice that this was a team that was just like, you know what, now they've taken a step back. Now the rest of you get to know what it was like, because I feel like a lot of Stamps fans just took the near dynastic run of success that they had for granted. And so there was a little bit of, yeah, no, it's not always this easy. So to have them be right back into it is a little bit bleh. But talk on the radio out here still. I'm still on 960. So it's fun to be able to talk about the Stampeders and have it feel like we're not forcing it in just because they're local. To be talking about them because they're good, it makes that part of the job a little bit easier. And they're just a fun team. So I'm happy to be able to talk about it. But yes, I do kind of wish that there was a little bit more of a, hey, just a reminder, it's not as easy as you guys made it look, for the record. I will just let you know that there's a little bit of a with that one. I will admit that. That's for sure. Again, Sutern with a few messages here in the chat, but then ends this in saying, "Don't you dare read this and make a show later on in the NBA. Do it now." I will get to the NBA here in a second. And then if you like that, let me know. I will know MMA UFC next. Yeah, we're going to do some UFC coming up here on the stream in just a matter of moments. But apparently we've got basketball to get to as well. So we'll get up to all of that in a second. Connor D in the chat. How would you build the perfect CFL quarterback? Whose arm, whose game management, whose pocket presence running, etc.? That is a good question. I think, honestly, a lot of it is Nathan Rourke. Like he just, all of those things, he kind of hits a number of them. I think when you're looking at the arm, that's a good question. Just kind of running through them all right now. Like Bo, they attack downfield really well. I think it's maybe held up a bit, but I'll say Bo has the best arm. Game management, I think it has to be Trevor Harris. I get frustrated with it's 2nd and 8 and they throw the ball 6 yards. I get frustrated with those, but when they get into a bit of a hurry up offense and they get the tempo going, he just has such a good vision of the field and able to kind of pick through what the defense is doing. So I would say that. Pocket presence, good question. I think Vernon Adams probably. Vernon Adams for pocket presence and the running. I think he has a really good feel of what's happening in there. And yes, he is obviously very athletic and can scamper away and run and do all those things. But I think there is also like, he is not just when he is scrambling, he's looking to run. He is also looking downfield. And so he has a good sense of the pocket, when he should go, when he shouldn't go. And I think that the running part of it is very good as well. So there is a lot of that. So that was a lot of not taking Nathan Rourke. We don't get to see Rourke in the pocket nearly enough to know. So maybe there's a bit of that. I think that Rourke is probably the best quarterback in the league, but I think when you start to put together the different parts of it, like the vision, the throwing the ball downfield, all of those things, I think you can kind of pick a bunch of different things. It's just Rourke is like second in all of them, right? So there's a little bit of that in there as well. Connor D once again saying, I think VA absolutely wins for keeping the passing plays alive without fully bailing. The way he can step up and navigate the rush has to be number one. And then 100% we're on the same page on that with VA. So keep the CFL chats coming if you want. Sutrain has listed a few NBA things that he wants to get to. So after you're done with CFL, I got a segment, who will make a finals again, KD, LeBron, or Steph, and same for Europe, Greek Freak, Jokic, Luka Fat Body. That's fun. And then second NBA question, what NBA rookies are you looking for? And a few other NBA things. So you know what? Wasn't anticipating going with the basketball conversation today, but I don't mind throwing a little bit of basketball talk in here. So yeah, let's chat some hoops. All right, talking some basketball here in the offseason, a few hypotheticals thrown out in the chat. So again, thank you to Sutern, on Kick for letting me know what he was kind of thinking. So this first one, who will make the NBA Finals again? KD, LeBron, or Steph? Let's go with that group first. He puts a few of the Euros after, but who will make it first? KD, LeBron, or Steph? I think... Man, KD's in the best spot with the Houston Rockets. Like, that team is really good. And what he does is basically tailor-made for their situation, right? Like, they needed someone who can come in and make a big shot. He can do that. And he's not what he was defensively, but I think he is still good enough that the rest of the team's elite level of defense can pick them up. So I think KD is probably the answer there. If I were to rank them, I think it does, man... LeBron having Luka on his team really does make that much more intriguing. I do think like Golden State getting a full season with that group, with Jimmy Butler after the trade that they made, and getting that whole unit all together, I think that can be a really dangerous basketball team over 82 games. I don't know the playoff success, how much there could be, though. So I will say KD, LeBron, and Steph. I will put it in the order that you put it in. And then the same thing for the Europe group with Greek Freak, Jokic, and Luka Fatbody. Their words, not mine, just for the people who aren't seeing the Twitch chat, or the Kick chat, right now. I think Jokic is number one by leaps and bounds. I love the offseason that the Nuggets have had by switching out Porter and using that extra money to bring in some actual usable NBA depth around Jokic, who is still an elite level player, with Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, who all fit around that great. Christian Brown fits on that roster still very well and continues to work his way up. So I think when you look at the depth that has been added, which was really the only thing holding that team back, and how close they came against the Oklahoma City Thunder in their series to upend them, I think that you have to put Jokic number one on this one. I am going to put Giannis number two. And the reason for that is he's in the Eastern Conference. And right now, this season, he's the best player in the Eastern Conference. With all the injuries that have happened to Tatum and all of those guys, I don't love what they did with the Turner-Lillard situation, but it's still a good basketball team, and he's still the best in the East. So I'm going to say that he has the second best chance, and then it would be Luka with the Lakers coming in at 3. Second NBA question: what NBA rookies are you going to be watching this year? Great White Hope, Cooper Flagg, and then the NBA son Harper for the Spurs. I think Harper with the Spurs is going to be the most fascinating to me. How he fits with Wembanyama, and if that works, then you just have a dynasty again out in San Antonio. Also, like, they went out and signed De'Aaron Fox to a gigantic contract. So where does that fit? I wasn't on the Bill Simmons train of, like, these guys aren't going to fit, you have to trade one of these things now. I want to see it first. And I think that there is a world, given how good San Antonio has been at utilizing a lot of very talented players, I think there is a world that you can kind of spread the love around with all those guys and make this a very dangerous basketball team. So Harper would be the one that certainly has my most attention. Aside from that, we might get laggy here for a second. I'm just Googling. I need to refresh myself on who some of the picks were in the draft and who I might get, might be looking at. Edgecombe with the 76ers, there's a little bit there. I mean, Ace Bailey, that situation with him in Utah is just going to be interesting. A guy who kind of tried to diva his way out of Utah is now there. So I think that is going to be really interesting just to see how that all goes. Malawak going to the Rockets infuriated me, because that was the one I wanted for the Raptors. And so for Malawak to go to, again, a Rockets team that we think can win a championship, I think that fits there so very effectively. And Essengay going to the Chicago Bulls. I think that team's going to be just absolute dog shirt this year, but I think that there's going to be some intrigue with them. So we will see. But those are a few of the rookies that I at least have an eye on. Derek Queen, some have said, is the worst trade in history. There's a little bit of that. That was not a great trade, but it's still a good basketball player on an Atlanta team that feels intriguing, at least, as well. So there's a little bit of that as well. What NBA team will fold this year? A team that thinks they are good but will just fail. Oh, I see. Not actually fold, but yeah, a team that thinks that has high hopes and will fail. We just kind of mentioned them. I think the Atlanta Hawks are in a difficult situation right now. I think that they've made some smart moves, and the East is a little bit open, but I still don't view Trey as like a number one on a contending team. So I don't think this year is going to go as well for the Atlanta Hawks as maybe they think it should be going right now. More here. What West NBA team is going to be way better than people think? Mine is Timberwolves. I think they might grab the number one seed. They're such a good ball club. I like so many pieces of what they are doing. I like so many pieces that they have on that team, and a lot of the stuff that they are doing there. I think that they're going to be dangerous. I think San Antonio jumps up a couple of steps this year. Like I think that they will be this year's Houston Rockets and the team that kind of elevates to a couple of different levels. I think they will be the ones that do that. Some more rapid fire questions here. Will Oklahoma City still be a juggernaut this year in the West? That's an easy answer. I think yes, they will. What two teams in the East are going to leapfrog up since the Pacers and Celtics are dropping off? Like I said before, like I think the Bucks take probably a pretty big step from what happened to them a season ago. And I know, like Homer pick, I do think the Raptors are going to be better than everyone thinks they are. It is a bit of a weird fit, and a bit of a weird unit. But if everyone's healthy, they kind of have 10 rotation players that you feel comfortable with. And in the East being so all over the place, and in a new NBA where with the second apron, you're not going to get 3 stars on a team. It's going to be a couple of good guys, and then you try to build out the depth. I think Toronto fits pretty well with that. Orlando is another good one. There is that there, Sutern. I agree with that as well. So there is that. And then a few more. I'm Russian, so no, the Nets, Igor talk is my main thing. Look, I think the Nets are a weird team this year. Michael Porter Jr. being kind of the big addition, I have some concerns with. But I think Igor is going to fit there quite well. I think there are going to be opportunities for him to shine. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of basketball that he can play that is going to be interesting. So I think that's probably a good fit. So I like that as well. Dude, you are a true sports fan. You spit NBA like a beast. Still too fast, but trying to keep up. Apologies, sorry. I do have a podcast, like I said before. So check the podcast and just put it on like half speed, and I will have the speed of a normal person. That'll help out there. But yeah, I do need to slow down. I understand that. Part of it is today I do have a bit of a time crunch, and I am noticing that I'm coming up on it now, and there's still a few things I wanted to get to. So some of the wrestling talk, actually all the wrestling talk, is going to get pushed to a different conversation, but I do still want to get to a little bit of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, because we just had a big show from the UFC on Saturday night. Khamzat Chimaev is the new UFC middleweight champion, and we are now, it feels like we're entering a new era with the UFC coming up in January as they go over to Paramount and CBS in the States, but I don't want it to be forgot what we have in front of us now, because there's a really good month or so coming up in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and for those who just watch the pay-per-views, you're going to be missing out, I think. Here are some of the more important fights to keep an eye on in the next little while from the Ultimate Fighting Championship, as we get into a little bit of fight talk. UFC 319 was a big event, and it was a reminder of what happens when the UFC can get on a roll. And the problem is we just haven't had enough of that over the last little while. But we got a couple intriguing cards over the next little bit. So today, just wanted to highlight a few of the fights that are coming up that people should get excited about here over the next month. We begin with this weekend as the UFC heads off to China. It's a fight card that has a lot of fighters that don't have Wikipedia pages. So, I mean, some interesting fighters and I think some interesting prospects along the way. But there are also a couple of big fights at the top. In the main event, it is Johnny Walker against Zhang Mingyang. It's not the wildest main event, but it should be a fun fight. But the co-main event is really interesting with Brian Ortega against Aljamain Sterling in the co-main event. I think that's a fascinating matchup. Ortega has lost 3 of his last 4. What does he have left? Aljamain has lost 2 of his last 3. What does he have left? So there's a lot of intrigue in this, where you have main event, probably going to be an entertaining fight, but co-main event, like one guy is going to be on the worst stretch of his career coming out of this, and at a point where it's going to be tough to get that nose up. So a very, very important and impactful fight coming up on Saturday out in China. An early start for those of us here in North America and in the Mountain Time Zone for us here. Especially. After that, the beginning of September, it is off to France with a fantastic main event. Nasruddin Imavov taking on Chao Baralio, or however it's supposed to be pronounced, in what could be a number 1 contender fight in the middleweight division. Obviously, it's not going to be Dricus getting that opportunity again, but Imavov, Baralo, both guys have come up with some big wins lately and feel like they are on the cusp of that opportunity. Now, given what Hamzat did to Dricus on Saturday, that's not an opportunity I would be just sprinting towards, but I'm not a professional cage fighter. So a big chance for those two guys in the middleweight division. Also, an intriguing fight with Benoit Saint Denis. He is in action on this one. Marcin Tybura also in action on this card. So a couple of interesting ones out there in France, as all of a sudden France becomes the main focus of TKO with WWE Clash in Paris. And then this one, a fight night card coming up in September. And then September 13th, it is UFC Noche with Diego Lopez against Jean Silva and Tatiana Suarez against Amanda Lemos. Lopez coming off of a title opportunity. It's a setback, but it was also a reminder that, hey, this kid, he's actually kind of close and is actually, I think, someone who could threaten for a championship very, very soon. Silva, also someone who has put together a couple of very interesting performances over the last little while, and I think that there is potential title challenger there. For Suarez against Lemos, I'm not the biggest Lemos fan. I think her time has kind of come and gone, but it's an interesting test because she is still a solid fighter, and now Suarez is coming off of a setback and just trying to stay consistent in her MMA career. What does Tatiana Suarez look like coming into this one? So I am, I think, kind of interested to see what version of Tatiana Suarez comes out for this one. So I think Suarez has a chance to step up here and remind everyone what she is. All right, let's run through the chat because Suterin again has a few thoughts on this. Okay, if we're going into MMA, UFC, I gotta ask about their new deal. Without pay-per-view stats, how will fighters get paid? I am hoping that there is a little bit more guaranteed money in the contracts for the fighters now in the UFC, and it's not just, hey, I mean, yeah, the contracts aren't great, but pay-per-view points, because that's not going to be a thing anymore. And part of it, partnering with Paramount and a streaming service, like with pay-per-view, you buy the pay-per-view, you sit down for it. But when you put these fights on a streaming service, and the big ones will be on CBS, but you can see like minute by minute, second by second, where people are tuning in and out and in and out and in and out. So you can see who's actually drawing in some of those numbers. Now, I don't think the UFC is going to be like, hey, you on the undercard, you're actually wildly underpaid. Here's a bunch of money. But I do think that there will be some based off of ratings, but I do think most of it now is going to be performance bonuses and hopefully just a slight uptick in the guaranteed money all the way around for the fighters. But I still don't think it is going to be worth what they should be getting paid anyway. 8 bill is a huge number now that they're going to split. And yeah, like $7.7 billion. I am concerned that the UFC is just going to pocket a lot of that and just keep fighter pay basically where it was, and then pay-per-view points, whatever. You know, it's with the sponsor thing. Like, hey, look, yes, we've taken away your ability to put some sponsors on your shorts, but we have dedicated ones now, and we're going to spread that money out. And then it was like $500 that the guys were getting. I'm worried that that's going to be the thing. It's like, hey, look, we're going to take care of you on. Yeah, we've taken pay-per-view points away, but we're going to take care of you. And it's going to be like a 0.5% increase on a couple of fighters' pays. So no, but you're right. It's amazing how much the sport has changed and is going to continue to change with the Ultimate Fighting Championship getting this big of a thing. I'm fascinated to see the kind of cards that we get now, especially with the big ones, because before you have to sell it on pay-per-view. But even then, it wasn't as much of a big deal because they were getting guaranteed money from ESPN. It should just be on their streaming service. Now that it's not pay-per-view, what type of matchups are we going to get? Is it going to be big ones because we're on CBS? Or is it going to be, we can spread it out and just make a bunch of medium cards instead? I'm fascinated to see how the matchmaking kind of gets spread around with all of that. Is Dana White going to pocket most of it and will expand the sport? I mean, look, they have already started like all the different expansion things they've done. I hate slap fighting, but they have that. But they have really ventured pretty aggressively into the jiu-jitsu market, a little bit into the kickboxing, and now a giant leap into boxing. So they've already started to expand that part of it a little bit as well. But I mean, there could be some of that even more now. Every fight should have a prize of over $1 million due to this. Oh, like every main event should have that, and then on down. Like there is no reason for UFC fighters to be paid as little as like for them to be paid as little as they are right now. Never just say Silva. Sorry, did I just say Silva? I meant Gene Silva before. Diego Lopez against Gene Silva is the fight that is happening at UFC Noche. Yes, I know there are like 20 Silvas in MMA at this particular time. I'm not sure if fighters have a strong enough union to get near 50%. I mean, they don't have a union at all. That's a big part of this whole thing. They'll be lucky to get to 20%. Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth of all of that. So, that's going to do it for the UFC conversation and the sporting conversation on the show today. Connor D in the YouTube chat. PK, are we going to get some We Had No Idea anytime soon? What are some subjects still on the list? Absolutely. My wife and I were just talking today that was something we got right back into, and then it kind of fell off one more time. But the schedule easing up, so yes, we will get back into that. Some subjects on the list coming up. One that I'm excited about is we're going to look at the Tupac and Biggie situation from the 90s. We're going to update the WWE talk that we had a little bit ago. Some other ones that are on there. None are jumping to mind right away, but a lot of good ones, I will say. So yes, We Had No Idea. We'll be coming back very, very soon. Thank you, Connor, for asking about that in the chat. All right, that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. This has been an absolute blast. Sutan, thank you so much for all the messages. What's your favorite show since COVID? Oh my goodness. Like TV show or UFC card? Because I don't know. But TV show. I mean, like the Last Dance was the epitome of everything for that, and then I just kind of fell into like a reality TV rabbit hole. So any TV show that I'm going to give out would be remarkably disappointing for people. So we'll maybe put a pin in that one for another day. But yes, thank you guys so much for hanging out in the chat again. Look, like, I didn't have the basketball talk on the docket for today, but got a lot of great basketball talk out of this. So if you want to join the live chats, we are going to be live again at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So same time tomorrow. Going to be looking at a few more in the NFL and a lot more wrestling and everything along the way. So thank you guys so much for hanging out today, and I will talk to all of you later. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and check out cfdead403.ca for the great Calgary swag.